The mansion on the hill had always been cold, not just in temperature but in spirit. Every Christmas, its grand halls glittered with lights and decorations, yet no laughter echoed through the rooms. For decades, Mr. Harrison Whitmore, a billionaire whose fortune had only grown with each passing year, had spent Christmas alone. Friends had long faded, family had disappeared into the tides of life, and the bustling world outside never seemed to reach the towering walls of his estate. He tried to convince himself he preferred it this way, that solitude was a mark of refinement, a testament to his independence. Yet every December 25th, he would sit in the same leather armchair by the fireplace, the crackle of the flames the only sound, and a faint ache settled deep in his chest, the kind that wealth could never soothe. This particular Christmas Eve was no different. Snow fell heavily outside, covering the estate in a thick, muffled blanket. Inside, the mansion was prepared for a celebration that would never come. Tables set for dozens, candles lit, and ornaments shining on the towering tree. Mr. Whitmore stared at the room with hollow eyes, sipping his expensive single malt whiskey, thinking of all the years that had slipped through his fingers. He remembered his late wife, Mary Ann, her laughter still haunting him like a bittersweet melody. Their children, grown and distant, had stopped calling long ago. Even the staff had dwindled over the years, leaving only a few loyal aides who understood the unspoken rule. They were here to maintain the house, not interrupt the silence of a man who had everything yet nothing. Meanwhile, miles away in the bustling city, a young waitress named Emily wiped down tables in a tiny diner. She had a little girl, Lily, just 7 years old, whose curiosity and innocence filled Emily's modest apartment with light and warmth. Emily had always loved Christmas, despite the hardships that seemed to follow her every year. This Christmas was particularly difficult. Her father had been sick, and money was tighter than ever. Still, she made sure to bake cookies with Lily, wrap tiny gifts for neighbors, and keep the spirit alive. The two of them, mother and daughter, clung to the small joys that made life bearable, never imagining that this year, fate would knock, literally, on the door of a lonely billionaire. The storm that night was relentless. Snow piled up against the roads, making travel treacherous. Emily had been on her way to deliver a catering order to a nearby holiday gala when her car skidded on an icy patch. Heart pounding, she realized she couldn't go on. The streets were unsafe, and the diner was closing early. As she debated what to do, Lily tugged on her sleeve. "Mommy, look, that big house. Maybe they have a fire inside. Maybe we can ask for help." Emily hesitated. She didn't want to impose, especially on strangers who looked like they lived in a fairy tale castle. But the storm offered no mercy, and the thought of staying stranded with Lily on the icy road was worse. So, with a deep breath, she drove the small car slowly up the winding driveway, praying that she wouldn't slip into the frozen ditch. The mansion loomed above them, majestic and intimidating, its windows glowing faintly in the snowstorm. When Emily knocked on the enormous wooden door, she wasn't sure what to expect. Seconds passed, feeling like hours, until a tall man in a tailored suit, Harrison Whitmore himself, opened the door. He looked every bit the part of the rich, distant, untouchable man people whispered about in the news, yet there was something disarming about the way a small mother and child stood before him, shivering and hopeful. I'm so sorry to bother you," Emily stammered, clutching Lily's hand. "Our car broke down, and the roads are too dangerous. Could we wait inside until the storm passes?" Mr. Whitmore stared at them, his brow furrowing. He wasn't used to people asking favors. Usually, people came to him with requests he could deny or fulfill at will, but there was a raw honesty in Emily's voice, a vulnerability he hadn't felt in years. Something inside him shifted. "Come in," he said finally, stepping aside. The warmth of the mansion enveloped them immediately, but it wasn't just the temperature. Emily and Lily brought with them a light that had long been absent. Mr. Whitmore's house, which had always felt like a mausoleum, suddenly seemed alive. Lily ran to the grand Christmas tree, her eyes wide with wonder, while Emily thanked him profusely and hung her coat by the fireplace. They settled near the fire, sipping hot cocoa Emily had made in her travel mug. Harrison watched quietly as Lily's laughter echoed through the hall, a sound that pierced the solitude he had cherished and resented in equal measure. Emily noticed the shadows on his face, the loneliness that even wealth could not erase. She offered cookies she had baked, and though he hesitated, he eventually accepted one, surprised by how much joy it brought him. Hours passed as the storm raged outside. Emily and Lily told stories of their little life, their hopes and dreams. Mr. Whitmore found himself sharing tales of Christmases long past, of Mary Ann, of mistakes and regrets. It was the first time in decades that someone had listened without judgment, without expectation. For the first time in years, he felt seen, not as a billionaire or a recluse, but as a man longing for connection. As the evening wore on, Emily grew worried about staying too long. "I should go before the roads get worse," she said softly. But Lily, hugging Mr. Whitmore's knee, pleaded, "Please, can we stay a little longer? It's like magic here." Harrison looked down at the little girl, her innocent eyes reflecting the twinkle of the Christmas lights. In that moment, he realized something profound. Wealth and power had never brought him happiness. Connection, laughter, and the simple warmth of family had been missing all along. He found himself offering, almost without thinking, "Why don't you stay the night? My guest rooms are ready." Emily hesitated, feeling like an intruder, yet there was a trust in his voice she could not deny. They settled into the guest suite, and Harrison felt a strange comfort watching them make themselves at home. He went to his study, preparing a small stack of games, puzzles, and books for Lily, feeling the thrill of anticipation he hadn't experienced in decades. The next morning, Christmas morning, Harrison awoke to the sound of laughter. Downstairs, Lily was building a snowman in the front garden, while Emily arranged a small breakfast for everyone. Harrison joined them, surprising himself by carrying plates of pancakes and bacon, a smile on his face that had not been there in years. They exchanged gifts, not extravagant ones, but small tokens of thoughtfulness, a handmade ornament from Lily, a scarf Emily had knitted, and in return, Harrison gave them a few meaningful items from his collection, treasures that suddenly felt less valuable than the joy surrounding him. By the end of the day, Harrison realized his life had changed. The mansion was no longer a cold, silent place but a home filled with warmth, laughter, and love. Emily and Lily had not only rescued him from his loneliness, they had reminded him of the true meaning of Christmas. In return, Harrison vowed to never spend another holiday alone. He offered Emily a position as the house's manager, not out of obligation but out of genuine desire to keep their newfound family together. Weeks turned into months, and the bond between them grew. Harrison became the grandfather he never had, guiding Lily with patience and care, while Emily found a sense of security and purpose she had never known. Every Christmas thereafter, the mansion on the hill was alive with festivities. Friends and family returned, drawn by the warmth that now radiated from within, but it was Emily and Lily who had opened the doors, not just physically, but to Harrison's heart. And so, the billionaire who had spent decades in solitude discovered that the greatest fortune in the world was not money, but love, connection, and the unexpected knock of fate on a snowy Christmas Eve. That knock had brought him not only company but a family, and from that moment on, Harrison Whitmore never again sat alone by a dying fire.